Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Live. I just have a piece of copy paper here where I've printed out a file, a photograph of customers' first compositional layouts using some imagery from Nature Set number 5 along with a couple other images in here. She did a great job in terms of her composition and imagery blending. She wasn't too satisfied with the sky. She used the shimmering image up here alongside the eerie moon. And right down here, she's used the right side of the eerie moon, right over here again, which is it's probably a more integrated blend in terms of textures, but either one could be used, and she did a great job. But I was mentioning to her that further kind of toning and blending would be the thing that really incorporates her areas together even more so than she already did. But like I said, she gave it she did a really great job in terms of integration of everything. Okay. All right. So I thought it would be easier for me to show her how to go about kind of approaching shading and lighting on, her scenes here. So like I said, I just printed this out just in grayscale on paper. She, she hadn't done any coloring on these pieces yet, but she just wanted to show me where she was in terms of the compositional aspect. All right, so that being said, this is just on some copy paper, so I'm just going to use a black colored pencil. You could use charcoal or something like this, but this is a really good exercise here. And kind of way to approach just some basics on coloring. Hello, Linda. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways you can color things, okay? And light things. I'm coloring, but I'm really thinking of lighting more so than anything else with these pieces. But when we take a look at this composition right here, there's the sky area up here, and we have this, the great wave kind of coming into it like this. But this area right here in the middle is, for the most part, the body of water like that. So we have one area, two areas right here, and then we have the sandy area and foreground right here. So it's really 1, 2, 3, and 4 different areas right here. And the way that I see, kind of variation and richness in scenes is when you are creating contrasts across the scene. It could be from left to right, it could be from top to bottom. Really, both ways are ideal. Okay, so I thought I would do this on this top part. I'll do this just with a black colored pencil. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to create some variation in 1, 2, 3, and 4 areas. This area right here is really small. It's just this little tiny foreground area, but we'll do the same type of concept in this small area right here as we're doing in these much larger areas, okay? Now the thing that we're just going to be doing, if you want to just really simplify things, is that we're just going to create a value scale range, I should say, a value range in each one of these areas. Now, where do you do that, okay? Up top, it's going to be really easy. We have the sun or moon up here, okay? Now, she stamped this out on just like white matte cardstock. If she wants to, she can add in some warm tones up there. It'll still be fairly dark because she stamped everything out in black ink, which is a really great idea for stamp sketching, getting the feel of things, not really worrying about color. But if you are going to do this as a sunset type of scenario, instead of stamping out the sky imagery in black, again, you can do that, but it would look kind of more eerie, dramatic, that type of thing. Really maybe more for like a, I don't know, like a Halloween type of scenario. If you have, some reddish tones up in here, I think that would look really cool. But I would normally stamp my sky figures in a color out of my color scheme. So if it's pinks and yellows, then you stamp this kind of in some sort of tone or hue that's going to be related to that color scheme. Hello, Sharita and Jeannie. Okay, so this moon, I'm just gonna say that's gonna be a moon right there. So what I'm doing, okay, I'm not gonna be too careful about this. I'm not gonna go for like perfect color blends or anything like that. But what I'll do is we'll start to go for a little bit of integration right in here. So you can see where this image right here is stamped out really dark, and then the shimmering is right here. I usually shimmering more for things like water, like underneath my moon, to create that area in there. But she did a great job in terms of utilizing it to fill in this open space right here, because that texture up there, I mean, it can be used for sky, but what it did was it carried out some textural forms out into this blank area. So it's better than nothing like white. Okay. All right, so we're going like this, and what I'm doing is I'm coloring in this area, but here's where we'll go for a little bit of textural value range. Okay, this is all done kind of in a similar gray right in here, but then what we can do is we can kind of make this area a little bit darker. That's where I'm always doing my vignettes. Out of, I don't know, whatever, 2,500 videos. First, this is a first here. I thought I'd better get to this one too before I start working with a new line, because before I really get into it, I was going to do, I wanted to do some lanterns and utilize some of those from the new set. And I thought, okay, once I start doing that, it's going to be never ending, you know. I'm not going to want to stop. So I thought, let's get to this before I, don't do it, and then it's like sitting around and I forget about it or something like that. All right, so there's my sky up there, darker to lighter. I haven't colored in my moon. Again, you could do it, but don't color it in too much because we want it to be the source of light. Okay, now we're in this water area right here. Okay, now there's a lot of variation in here, and it's like, all right, what's dark and what's light in there? You know what I mean? You're not just going to be making darker over here and then lighter in here. I mean, you could a little bit, but here's the thing. We'll create a little bit of range. Now here's this little island. That's not Stampscapes, this is someone else. But it looks great in there. I'm going to create some darkness coming in from the sides like this, okay? And we'll do that thing where there's some light on the water, like that, okay? So there's the lighting right in there. But then we have this kind of intermediate area right in here. It's a little bit closer to the shore, the surf area. So we have this lit in here. I'm going to largely leave things lighter right in here, but also because we have our subject matter here. So I don't want to make this area behind our subject matter too dark. So it's what we call kind of spotlighting, or I don't know, I call it that. So this area in here, where maybe it would normally be darker because it's kind of on the side and I do these vignettes, we have our subject matter right here. So we want to leave this area right behind that character largely illuminated, okay? Unless you're, I don't know, doing some sort of point about, I don't know, subtlety and one with nature, where it's like, oh, I didn't even see the character, But what I'm going to do right in here is those areas that are already a little bit darker, like in these waves right here. See how I did this? I came in here, and this is where this image ends, and this is how these other waves begin. So see, what you do is you kind of link those up like that. Now this area right here, this stamp, is integrated with this area. There's this area of darkness right here, and you can see there's other areas of darkness right in here. They're really narrow, but what you do is you combine the forms like that. See that right there? And then we're coming in here. Now, one of the things is these are really short little waves, but you can transition tone just in a very short area like that, small area like that, where it's darker up here and lighter right here. So it doesn't have to be this big area right here of 4 inches where it's darker to lighter right there. That little space of a, quarter inch or so could have a little bit of variation as well, like that. Now here's this right here too. Maybe I'll go a little bit lighter or darker right in here for these waves. And then maybe right in here, I'll do the same thing, but I won't go quite as dark, so we can go darker to lighter like that with each one of these waves like this. And it's just, my theory is because it's getting closer to the light source, you just kind of follow suit with the, the amount of shade you're using. Now this is like some water patterns back here, textures. So I'm going to come in here and add a few little streaks of variation in there too. Just like that, okay? And that's what's happening here, but it's kind of more in a diagonal. It's interesting how these angles are like that. It looks pretty cool. I like how she did that. I don't know if she was thinking about that, but my inclination when I'm doing it is probably to go a little bit more horizontal, but this little motion right there is kind of nice. It gives this scene a little bit more kind of visual motion like that, and it kind of also it goes right to our figure like that. Okay, so another area that's already inherently darker is underneath the wave right here. So we can do this right here. It's underneath the lip of the wave, like this. Now, I'm doing this in colored pencil because it's just on some copy paper, but this is the type of thing that I would be doing with dye-based inks or something like this. So that this type of lighting scheme isn't specific to colored pencil, okay? You still leave this area light and you vary your light and dark. My wave right here, let's create a little bit of separation between this lip right here, the wave, and the underside. So I don't think I'm going to color this in, or if I color it in, it won't be too much. Like back here too, if I color this in, I don't know if it won't be differentiated very much between this top part, but maybe that is a little bit too similar, so we can put a little bit of tone in here, like a 5% grayscale. If we translated that, if we were doing this in color, then maybe that would be like a sky blue in there or something like that, as opposed to a dark blue. Hello, Candy. Oh, sitting at a campsite. That's awesome. Let's see. What time is it there for you? I heard the days, is it today? Was it the longest day of the year just recently? Now that days are getting shorter again. All right, we're into the sandy area I didn't mention. Okay, so I'm doing that thing again that I did right up here with my waves. I'm varying the areas that are already dark and just kind of reiterating that with some additional tone. This is the sand pattern right here, and it ends right about right here. She did a great job overlapping, so it goes like here and here. And it was already inherently blended in. You couldn't really see the difference between one impression and the next, but this integrates it even more so. Now, what I'll do is I'll throw some additional tone right here just to kind of frame that off. So it's like tone, and then here's like these 3 fingers of additional shadow work going over there. It's a little bit darker over here, lighter over here. If you're doing it in like a sandy brown or something like that, you can go tans right in there or something like that and go with a little bit of darker brown or something of that sort right over in that direction. Okay. Let's see, let's create a little bit of separation here between water and shore, so I'll extend that out like that. Okay. I'm looking up here again. Let's extend this out this way. Okay. This is a lot darker right here with the eerie moon going into the shimmering. So I just noticed this when looking at this, but let's extend this out this way. Just like we're extending these in this way. Okay, you can go so work from the inside out like this. So you can kind of use tone. So this is a perfect example of, you know, if things aren't looking completely integrated with your imagery, okay, just stamping out all your composition, it really doesn't have to be. Unless you're, that's where you're, you know, that's the end of it. You're not going to color it or anything like that. And a lot of people like doing that, you know, just want to do some compositions and no coloring or anything like that, which is a really cool thing to do. I wouldn't do it all the time. Because there's not as much atmosphere and emotion in that, you know what I mean? But it's a really great exercise to do. It's working a certain part of your brain too, I think, which is a really good opportunity. And then if you want to, sometimes you get, when you're just only doing compositions, sometimes you come up with things that you normally wouldn't. Just because it gets, I don't know, it gets the creative juices, compositional juices flowing. So sometimes when I'm doing those, I call them stamp sketch videos, or sometimes I'll just do that, you know, like for a couple days. I don't know, I see things differently that way. Sometimes like imagery, and I'll use them in different ways than I, you know, wouldn't have thought of before. Hello, Josh TV. Good to see you. Glad you like all the new animal stamps. I had an error with them. I was like horrified last night. I wrote a note to everyone that pre-ordered them because I shipped them all off in the mail, but there was something that happened in the mold making process, and all the other designs are fine. I scrutinized them a little bit more, but I hadn't had to really do that because everything's been perfect for years. My rubber guy missed it, but I should have looked at them too. Okay, this is a little area right down here with these rocks. We have in our sky area, dark and light, wave areas, darker, lighter. Oh, and right back in here, this little area right here, darker, medium, light. But you can do the same thing in very small areas like this. See, there's this, I see this as like one area, but then there's like different rocks in it. But see this right here where you leave a little bit of lighting in there, like that. Let's see, let's make this little area here. See this little area on these rocks that are illuminated like that? Let's just make them stand out a little bit more by putting a little bit of tone right behind them like this, okay? All right, so see this right in here? So that makes that stand out a little bit more by contrast. So you go just dark, lighter, a little bit darker, and it's not super dark. You could go darker. But you can see all this oscillation of light and dark up here if you look at it, you know, across the entire thing. It's going darker up here. I put a little bit of tone up top right here. See this darker edge? And then there's a little bit of lighter area right in here. This is just in the design itself though, but it goes lighter right in here. So it's largely like where I toned it, it's darker. We have our light area in here. And I didn't have to do too much in here because that was in the design, but I added this little streak of darkness across right in here on the horizon, just to separate whatever surface from sky a little bit more. then you get this oscillation of dark, dark, light, dark, light over here, and it's dark down here. But you can see this kind of this variation happening across here, and it's right in here too. It's lighter, okay? It's darker in the image too, because I like to oscillate lighting within the imagery as well, just so we don't have to do so much. But here's this area right here. I didn't really tone that in very much, a little bit, but here's tone, and then, it goes like dark, light, across all these little waves right here. Light and dark, like that. All right, but that is lighting. Basically, it's looking at all of these different areas. Sky, if you just joined in, here's sky, here's water in the middle, and here's shoreline, the sand, and then these rocks right here. That's, I don't know. I see this as a little bit closer to us, so there's like 4 regions, okay? But then you have lighting in each one of those little areas, even if it's a small little area like that, if it represents something that's at a different distance than something else. I usually put a little bit of variation in here. I don't. This would be good too if it was just solid black as well, like really like a hard silhouette. It would separate it a little bit more from the scene, okay? It would push this forward a little bit more. Here, with a little bit of lighting, it's more integrated into the scene, because it has, it's being affected by the lighting. So you have this light source and reflected light here, 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 and here, okay? So it's just a different, type of look. But that's my way that I generally look at things when approaching lighting, okay? It's not terribly complicated. Most of the time, it's darker on the edges and lighter in the middle somewhere, and then I just kind of tone in the shadows that are already inherently in the designs, okay? And if there's a light area on the designs, I usually leave it a little bit lighter, unless it's like on the edge of the scene, then I'll tone it in because of that vignette type of thought or process. And anyways, grayscale, it's a really great exercise in order to help you see lighting really effectively. And you can just kind of define it just so much faster because you're just using one color. Okay, let me just do a really quick example of applying this type of lighting scheme to this one right here. If you just joined in, this is just a customer of mine. These were her first, attempts at using the stamps. And she sent me her layouts, and she was really cool with them. And she said, except for her sky, she wasn't really kind of cool with the sky, but it needed a little bit more of that integration in there, okay? So let's just do this. Let's bring in some blue tones into this area. It'd be really fast if I had some dye-based inks on here, but I just printed this out on some just regular copy paper. 7:45. It's time for s'mores, Candy. Bust out those the s'more materials, the marshmallows, and watch the video. See, if you tell me that anyone's going to like a campsite and you're going to watch the video, the live stream. Of course, I didn't announce this live stream at all, but we'll have to do it where someone's camping, and then I'll do an outdoor scene with like a, like a campfire ring or something like that. Okay, let's do this right here. Let's bring in some additional tones in here with our colored pencil. Okay, so I'll go through a range of blue tones, range of values like this. Here's kind of light, medium, and darker right here. Okay, so I just laid down the lightest tone. I didn't do it too hard either, because I'm not sure how layered I can go with these colored pencils on this copy paper. Let's go like this right here. I'll try to create I'll try to create variation across this surface. Candy, are you near any body of water? I was going to say, like, that's like the prime, well, I don't know what the prime is, but like around that sunsetty twilight times, at least in some campgrounds that I used to go to, that was like the um, the mosquito hour. Oops. I just brought some of this blue down in here. I'll bring in some tan tones like this. Okay, so there's just some light tones in here, and hopefully you can see in here that I've retained some lighter areas in here. Okay, maybe I went too far. But let's do this. Let's go a little bit darker just with some additional pressure. That coloring's going a little bit faster than I thought. I might just switch off to copy paper for now on. Not really. Okay, this is a darker blue, so maybe on this darker blue, I don't go in quite as far as I did. I mean, you just use lighter pressure, but just in general, we'll keep it more on the kind of the perimeter here. Okay. I'll kind of go inside out a little bit more on this one. The Eerie Moon design, that is. Eerie Moon could be an Eerie Sun, too. It just depends on what color you use it with. Okay, see this right here? This area on the Seaside Cove is just inherently dark right in here, so I've just added in some extra tone. And then I like to put in these, whatever, striations across the surface like that. Let's create a little bit more of a differentiation between surface and sky. So I'm going a little bit darker with this tone right here. Who was it that said they had the 250 glossy card stocks? Was that you, Candy? Hello, Laura. Cold and rainy Montana. Huh. Has it been cold or has it been warming up, though, Laura? It's getting there, huh, Candy? A little bit more dramatic. Well, we're adding contrast in here. It's kind of contrast and integration of the forms, but hopefully it's also creating its integration of the forms in terms of like color, but hopefully we can create a little bit more kind of separation too in terms of image distance, I guess you can say, by defining the shadows and lighting a little bit more, like this. Okay, so it's just going in and adding that tone right into the waves right here. Okay. Let's see, where does the sand end? Okay, right there. All right. Let's bring this wave out. I was talking about kind of separation in terms of distance. Let's try to make this wave stand out a little bit more by making the area right behind it a little bit darker. That's what we do in painting classes or drawing classes all the time. It was like, there'd be like a couple things right next to each other, and it's like, okay, you know, if you put this, one of my friends would always say, okay, what if I put a little bit of darkness right in there, it'll make that pop. It means it'll make it stick out a little bit more in terms of contrast. All right, let's get a little bit of tone right down here in these rocks. Okay, more of a navy blue here. Oh, which color is this? Ultramarine. This one feels, the ultramarine feels a little bit harder, you know, in terms of the wax here, for some reason. She stamped out the little body surfer here. I'm not going to make them stand out because it already got kind of integrated in there, but you know, they're there. This surfer right here, this whole body surfer and this big wave, it reminds me of this place called the Wedge. It's this one surf spot in Newport Beach. It's such a crazy wave, shaped wave. All right, see this right in here, kind of adding in some additional tones right in here. I'm working with colors, so you know, so I'm kind of breaking up the grayscale just with, you know, a variation of colors or values of blue. You can do it in tones of blue too. You know, go for a little bit of warmer blue or something like that. But let's bring in these brown tones like this. Okay, so here's a little bit of a lighter, medium, and darker brownish tone. Okay, and let's bring it onto this sandy area. I'm looking to see if I had some a little bit more tan beige color. Really here. Let's try this one. This is like flesh or something, but it's a little bit warmer and lighter. Now that I'm working with color, I do want to, you know, kind of remind myself not to make this area behind the server too dark if I want that server to go, you know, kind of pop, stand out against that background a little bit. All right, here we go with this one right here. It's a kind of a neutral brown value. It's like a warm brown, but I'm bringing this brownish tone in here. If it was the moon, you wouldn't have this warm tone in here, but I just wanted to show you just some variation using some colors other than just one, you know, type of color, you know, gray up here, grayscale up here, and just blue in this bottom area. Right in here, the sand pattern got cut off a little bit from these impressions to these ones over here. I'm looking to see right here, if she stamped this right here, like off the page, and then she stamped it over here where this area right in here, sometimes if you stamp something out like that and you go for a second impression, more of the ink comes off sometimes on like a really absorbent paper, copy paper, or whatever you're stamping on newspaper. And then if you go to stamp over here, it's missing this area. So, like I said, no big deal though, you know, because you can just integrate these forms like this with some additional tone like that. All right, so we have that. I'm trying to leave room for black too, so I don't want to go too thick, because this is just some copy paper that I printed this out on. All right, I keep explaining this, but just, you know, people might be confused as to what the heck is he doing here. This is, these are two scenes that someone stamped out It's an overseas customer, and I mentioned to them, I said, I wanted to explain kind of lighting to them. So I started typing out this whole email. It's talking about, scene areas like, sky, water, sand, and whatever. Foreground is 3 areas, and you tone them in, but leave a little bit of, leave variation. I thought, okay, let me just, then I told them, I said, you can send one of those pieces to me and I'll show you how to finish it off so they can practice. But I forgot they were overseas, so it's like, okay, I'm just going to print this out. So I just printed it out on copy paper. All right, so here comes some black. Okay. See, this is where this image ends right here. And there was like nothing over here, so I'm bringing this image out a little bit from center. If it was wet ink, I can color in like this and swipe it this way. Like wet ink with your applicator. So you can get this kind of, darker to lighter type of, varied application of that ink. Okay. We're starting to lose a little bit of our horizon line here, so I'm going in and I will darken the horizon a little bit, but not like right underneath the moon. I want that still kind of moonlit. Right underneath the lip of the wave. Okay. It's like right in here. This is where you want to be surfing right in there. So when it goes over that like that, it's like you're in the tube, or when that wave starts going over and curling over you. Another way they used to describe that was like you're in the green room. Like aqua bluish green tone. You had to have really good conditions for that, though. Waves weren't always peeling like that. All right, tone on the side. So we're doing that same type of thing we did before up here. Okay. All right, so anyway, that is kind of an example of one way to approach lighting, okay? Let's bring a little bit of this warmer tone in here. This is a little bit of warmer blue. And let's incorporate it in here a little bit. So lighting schemes, I always mention this, but when you're doing lighting in your pieces, what you're doing is you're not seeing each different area. In terms of landscapes, you're seeing each area. Okay, so there's sky, water, sand, and this is like a little rocky foreground area there. So it's like there's 4 different areas. And this is just one way to do it, okay? But I retain a little bit of lighting in each area. So if there's a sky figure in the sky, stars, whatever, moon, sun, northern lights, something like that, lightning, I like to have those areas illuminated, okay? It could just be some clouds or something like that too. But then you go onto your surfaces, okay? So back in here's like a distant area of the ocean. I didn't really leave too much white up here. Maybe I should have left a little bit more white. This is where, if I was using paint pens or something like that, go back and reintroduce a little bit of white in there. But Or you can just go a little bit darker on the edge of it, like this. On that horizon, then that area looks a little bit lighter by contrast. Okay, but see, there's variation in each one of these areas. Sky, kind of distant ocean water. And then there's certainly a lot of variation throughout here, in these areas right in here. And then you get this sandy area right in here, okay? Now that I look at this one, I think I should tone this in a little bit more over here. But there's a range of, kind of value in each one of your areas. And when you do that, it's just, when you don't color everything uniformly, you just by default, you create lighting in there by retaining lighter areas in there. Or just, like I said, it's just having a little bit of variation with all of your values or colors within your pieces. So when someone's just starting, scenic stamping or something like that, there's not a lot of people come from stamping objects out onto their card, their card surface and their outlines. So it's really, you get all these different shapes and patterns, and it's easy to know kind of where to color in because you're staying within the lines. It's almost like a coloring book, type of notion. They have variation in there too. People do a little bit of, color variations in there. It's usually not like a big, huge range of tones or something like that, or of a given color. But they do give variation in there, but it's much more defined. So when you get like a scene like this where there's like, okay, there's not, it's just wide open. There's no really super defined areas a lot of times, it's like, okay, where do you color it? And sometimes, okay, it's like water is this whole area in here. So they might have this notion of coloring in this whole, anything that's water, all the same blue or something like that. Or even if it's a couple different blues, they'll use those. But they might not retain any lighter areas in there. Same thing with the sand. They'll color in everything uniformly, okay? And like I said, you can do that. And there's certain types of looks where that really looks pretty cool. But if you want a little bit more variation and variety, it's just about the retention of some lighter areas in your scenes. And it doesn't have to be the white of the page either. Like I said, it could be a color, but then you just apply some darker tones somewhere else. But that's lighting, scenic lighting, a la, I don't know, whatever, Kevin. Right here, and you can see two different areas like this. And I've been telling people a couple times recently, for some reason, I don't know, it came up in like emailed conversations, that doing this right here, I mean, this is really fast to do. And you can color this too, but if you just work grayscale like this, it's a really great approach to heightening your kind of lighting sensibilities, because you're not working with all this different color. You're not saying, okay, wait, where does the color change between here and here or something like that? And you're just working on shadow and grayscale, and it's easier to see, okay, that's darker and that's lighter right there, okay? But sometimes when you're coloring with all these different colors or pens and everything like that, and wet inks, it's kind of a different sensibility, and there's different kind of notions where black and white, we're talking about, value, texture, pattern, that type of thing. So we're leaving out things like temperature, intensity, hue, and all those other things. But like I said, you can get done with something like this and like a black and white, photograph coloring. They used to color these photographs with dyes. You can do something like that. You can bring in some blue tones in here or something like that. It has a different type of look than just going straight with color. it's more of a kind of a subdued, kind of a emotional tone to it, I'd say. Just like black and white again, and against color photography is there's just a kind of a different feel to it. Anyway, let's see. Candy says loving the mono. Yeah, Jeannie's really great at that. So Jeannie has a ton of textures in her monochromatic. She uses a ton of the bleed proof white too. So sometimes I think that when she's only working in black and white, sometimes, I don't know if it's in my imagination, but they seem more textural to me. Maybe it's because I'm just kind of focused in on that, so too. So I guess it's from a viewing standpoint, too. It's a little bit different of an experience when you're looking at other people's pieces that are like monochromatic or something like that. Let's see here. Tons of chrome coat. You can always use the backside of your chrome coat, Candy. Unless you got the double-sided glossy chrome coat. Let's see. Warm last week. Yeah, that's what I thought, Laura. I thought, why is it in the 50s and raining again right now? Huh. Thanks, Linda. All right, folks. So that was just my lesson on lighting right here. I forgot who sent this to me. I'm going to have to dig back through my emails and say, hey, should you be interested in, checking out my lighting? She might already know about lighting, though. I mean, these are her first two pieces that, I think she said these are her first two pieces. I don't know if it was just using the set or if it was scenic stamping in general. I already forgot, That was like like a week ago. So that, to me, in my ears, that's like, it feels like it was like a year ago or something like that I was talking about it, especially with the new line coming out here. So I'm gonna do some scenes coming up here. I want to do some scenes with the. I really want to do integrate some of those lights into scenes, those floating lights, and I can't wait to do that. So it's like busting out some of my silver cardstock to do some reflection and or horizon cards. And if anyone ordered those stamps, the Orcas and the Nature Seat number 48, look in your emails. Your email that you used in your order form. I explained something as far as that goes. We're sending out replacements, So specifically, it's these three Orcas right here. When I was using this one in the Friday Night Live 2 nights ago, I was thinking something is kind of not stamping out really perfectly right in here. And there's a little bit of texturing on there because it... when they made the mold, some of that mold material in there transferred over to the metal plate. So when it was released like that, it was, that shouldn't have been left on there. It should have been in the interior of the mold to give it a nice flat surface. So don't use those. We'll be getting those replacements out as soon as possible. All right, thanks, Jeannie, for checking that out. Thanks, everyone else, for checking out this, this piece on lighting. I think it was a good thing. It was a good lesson to do. It just occurred to me that I haven't done something like this before. It's kind of interesting just working in the colored pencils on just plain copy paper, too. I thought, I thought that came out okay. I can even make this even richer. Maybe we don't need expensive cardstock, and, we're just stamping on Staples copy paper for now on. Not really, but yeah, not bad in terms of just a colored pencil surface to use. All right, I hope you have a great rest of evening, and thanks again for checking out adding lighting schemes to your scenes. Drop me a note if anyone ever has any questions, or if you have some examples of it that you want to show me, email them to me. I'd love to see them. Thanks, folks.